Welcome to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zoracle Profiles. I'm here with my co-host, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. Tracy, we've already had a very robust conversation with our special guest today, Brooke Wilson. Over the past 2 decades, Brooke has owned and operated multiple two men in a truck locations across North Carolina, Georgia, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. Today, she leads 6 thriving franchises in the Raleigh-Durham Chapel Hill area of North Carolina and Atlanta, Georgia, with a team of nearly 300 employees across frontline administrative and leadership positions. Her business generates close to 20 million in revenue and continues to grow, recently expanding into junk removal with 2 men and a junk truck in 2024. So welcome to the show, Brooke. I can't wait to really dive into your life.
Yeah, Rebecca, Tracy, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you guys.
Oh, this is really exciting. Congratulations on your newest business as well, or the expansion. So, as a woman, tell us about Two Men in a Truck.
Well, Two Men in a Truck is the franchised moving company across the United States. It started in 1985, so it's been around quite a while. I got into the business initially as a part-time job as a customer service representative, straight out of college, just to help out during the busy peak summer months, and quickly took on more responsibilities and tasks within the office and realized I can do this. This is kind of fun. So I decided with my newlywed husband to move to Durham, North Carolina initially and start our own Two Men in a Truck franchise. That was our first in Durham in 2004 at the young age of 23.
It's
Wow.
amazing. It's so funny, Tracy, that you asked as a woman getting into Two Men in a Truck because Two Men in a Truck was actually founded by a woman. Can you tell us a little bit of that story?
Yeah, so Mary Ellen Sheets, an amazing and wonderful, since retired woman, founded the company in Michigan, Lansing, Michigan, to be specific. She worked for the state of Michigan as a bookkeeper, and her 2 sons moved furniture when they were in college in the back of a pickup truck. When they went back to school, she kept getting phone calls. Her house phone kept ringing, so she hired a couple of movers and started a company. And then one of her coworkers within the state of Michigan government system said, "Why don't you franchise this thing? It's a great concept, great idea, and there's just not a woman's perspective in the moving industry. So I really think you've got something here." She did. She partnered with her daughter first, Melanie, who happened to live in Atlanta. I now own one of Melanie's franchises that she began. And so Mary Ellen Sheets and Melanie began the company in the mid to late 80s. And from there, the system's grown to across the United States, UK, Ireland, Canada. So it's a very large organization now and still has that unique customer service approach with the woman's perspective on moving and storage, which is very unique in the moving industry.
That is fascinating.
Isn't
So,
it? When I think about moving, I think about the trauma, especially as a woman that happens, right? So I just think it's cool that a woman started the business and understood the emotional impact and the stress that happens when you're moving, and then for her daughter Melanie to step in and continue that legacy. So great story.
how was the junk truck added into the mix?
Yeah, so about a year ago, it will be a year in June, we wanted to expand our service offerings for our customers. We found that a ton of moving companies or moving customers are often disposing of things, don't need this anymore, want to donate this to Goodwill or Habitat, for example. And we just saw an opportunity to be another solution for our customers. And so we launched Two Men and a Junk Truck. So little dump truck, and we'll come to your home and remove anything you don't want anymore. Doesn't make sense to move it or hang on to it. There's a trend in society. It's kind of going a little more minimalistic. If I haven't used it in 6 months, let's get rid of it. So tapping into that market a little bit.
Yeah.
Wow.
We are becoming better at recycling things and um, sharing it with others and becoming more minimalistic. I think it's a wonderful trend. So, Brooke, let me ask you a personal question. Mission. Do you have a mission in your life? And if so, could you articulate it for us?
I will do my best to articulate it. I believe that all humans have a value to contribute, whether it's professionally, personally, to society and the world in general. And I think recognizing that those people, whether it's a cultural experience, an education, that we all have a different value to bring to the table. And helping people realize and recognize that value, no matter your background, no matter what you do, there's a way for you to contribute just as much as I can contribute. I would say is my personal mission. I believe very passionately about that.
Wow. That's so important. Do you think that most people realize the value that they bring to the table?
I think some do, a lot don't. I think it's very easy to get stuck in if only I could do this, or I'm just a small fish in this giant pond. And and so personally, I try to within business and within my professional or personal life, help people to recognize that we are individually all on a stage all the time, no matter who we're talking to in life, trying to find that value that different people bring to the table and helping people self-reflect and understand that, there's something you have to bring to the table as well.
So, something you have to bring to the table in terms of we have our own personal gifts and talents, and we're to bring it to others, I'm assuming is what you're talking. Can you elaborate a little bit on this idea of I bring value, I'm always on a stage? Where did that come from? Was it something you were taught, a book you read, something that was just an epiphany that you had? Tell me more about that, because when I try it on, I got to tell you, Brooke, when I try it on, I'm thinking we could solve anxiety and depression by just having people understand the value that they bring, right? That the value that they are. So tell us more about how you came to this conclusion and this mission.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about solving anxiety and depression. I think that it's a piece of the puzzle, but a lot of that's internalized, and we need to help people understand. But from a very young age, I was just raised in a family to believe that there's no matter where we're from, no matter our background, no matter our race, our socioeconomic position, that everybody is unique and valued in some way. And I think that's where it stems from, is just, being raised in a family that was embracing of diversity. And I think that kind of translates in the way I live my life and the way I run my businesses.
Nice. Well, everybody having value, how would that translate into somebody leaving their mark in the world?
I mean, I think that depends on what their unique skill, experience, or perspective is. But I think ultimately the mark is just helping other people understand and believe and reflect internally to understand that, hey, I'm not just some small fish, that this is a big pond, but every fish in this pond, every, fish, turtle, whatever, has some reason to be within that ecosystem. And sorry for the metaphor, that's a little odd, but
That's a good, I was
Makes
thinking of a
sense
good
though, because we all are interdependent and we are part of, and I like that you used the word ecosystem because it is an ecosystem. We need each other. When we play off each other, we bring value. And when someone isn't fully present and fully living their, who they are, then it affects all the rest of us and vice versa, right? So it is an ecosystem. It is a stage.
and I think if you can recognize that and you can say, hey, look, you're not better than me, I'm not better than you, and that we each bring our unique skills, experience, value to the table, then I think it kind of starts to change our perspective on life a little bit. And I'm not going to say it would change the world. There's definitely a lot going on, but I think a little piece of that puzzle is is recognizing that we're all different and that difference is good.
Yeah, I like that. I'm thinking back to my childhood where clearly I had no value.
Stop.
No, I'm serious. We were taught we had no value, and how that possibly impacted me versus a child that was raised in the environment that you were talking about, where you were recognized for who you were and saw as someone that was talented and gifted and important and valuable, and that you had something bigger. And now you see that you pull that out of others, whether it's your close family or folks you're working with, you see that in others, that you have that value. Okay, I have a question. And this has to do with your husband and the risks that you took to get into this business. You were newlyweds and then you up and moved to Durham. Tell us about that whole crazy experience.
It was tough and maybe a little bit stupid, but it paid off. It was a definite unexpected journey. I married at 23, which I advice to anyone listening, it was very young to get married, and I don't necessarily recommend that. As I mentioned before, I started with 2 Men and a Truck at the local franchise, just a part-time summer job. I was interviewing for that, fresh out of college career path. And we decided that we loved 2 Men and a Truck. We loved the brand. We loved the dynamic nature of the business every day. It was not a desk job. It wasn't sitting in a cubicle. And so we wanted to pursue that. And the available market was Durham, North Carolina. And, at the time, Durham kind of had a reputation for not being the best area of North Carolina. So that was a little bit scary. I love Durham, by the way. It is an amazing city, full of amazing people and food and culture. It's great. But at the time, it was a little scary, and we didn't know if the business was going to be successful, if we could afford to, pay it for our living expenses. And so we kind of jumped in the pool head first and figured it out along the way. It was fun. It was exciting. Some moments of it were hard, as you can imagine.
Wow. So being that young in a new city, starting a new business, how did you make it work?
Well, the first year and a half, we didn't. I'll be honest. I mean, the business was going well. It was booming. It was growing. Definitely tons of demand for moving services and our unique style of moving services in the market. But we were consumed by business. And so our personal relationship, our marriage was kind of put on the back burner because we were just, late into the evenings running the business, just the two of us, as most startups tend to be. And we really needed to focus on our marriage. So I would say the first year and a half, I thought we were bound for divorce. And we really had to learn how to better communicate, how to set aside time for personal and not to constantly bring the work life into our personal relationship. Even in the workplace, we needed to define our swim lanes and talk with each other about what he was most skilled at, where his strengths and weaknesses were, versus my strengths and weaknesses, and really kind of come to an understanding with each other that these are the things I'm going to handle. These are the things you're going to handle. And you're going to trust my decisions because those are where my strengths lie. And I will trust yours because that's where your strengths are. And I think that really helped us professionally, but also on the personal side to delineate those responsibilities and have that clear communication.
Wow.
I think that's a tough one because you're new in marriage, new in business, new city, new people. Support system is different, right? If there even is one yet, right? As you're building those relationships. So when did the epiphany happen, or did it, or was it just gradual in terms of, hey, listen, we gotta do our own lanes and we gotta separate business from personal if we're gonna thrive in either of them? Was there an epiphany moment, or was it just you woke up to it and gradually?
I don't know if there was a epiphany, so to say. But I do think that it was very clear that our relationship was being sacrificed for the good of the business. We I mean, I can speak for myself. I shouldn't speak for him, but I just felt like we were business partners that happened to be roommates. And that there was just not, we weren't connecting on a personal way anymore. We weren't doing things outside of the business because we were consumed every day. And then we'd come home and we'd be exhausted. So it was just like, the stereotypical turn on the TV, fall asleep in 30 minutes, and we just weren't connecting. And so I really did just reach a point where it was like, we're going to fix this or else it's not going to work. And whether it's not going to work means we need to sell the businesses and be done with it, or we need to, give up on our relationship and be business partners because we're really good at that. So I don't know that there's like one particular time or place or epiphany. I think it more gradually happened, and we were fortunate enough to recognize it and just sit down and talk about it, and work with an amazing therapist. No, nothing against therapy. I think it's wonderful when you need it. Don't be afraid to reach out and get it. And we needed someone to help us work on our communication skills and to help us understand how we could be more successful in our personal relationship while not sacrificing the business.
I love that. I mean, I had the exact opposite experience where I built a business at 23 with my husband, but we ended up being business partners and not husband wife. So it amazes me that the two of you had such, I guess, emotional intelligence to know that you needed to sit down and say, okay, we have the business up and running, which I'm assuming you had it up and running at that point. We've got the business up and running. Now, how are we going to get the marriage up and running?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, I don't know if it was as much emotional intelligence at 23 or if it was just, commitment to succeed. We're both incredibly competitive. We both wanted to succeed. We both loved each other very much and didn't want to give up on the relationship. So I think that was kind of the motivator behind, okay, what do we need? We need help. So let's figure out where to get help, who to go to, and how to figure things out together.
yeah. Nice. Beautiful.
I don't remember being that wise at 23, 24, 25 either. So as Tracy said, there's much to be applauded here, Brooke. So Brooke, this is a crazy question. Okay, so
Crazy.
bear with me here. What is your biggest pet peeve?
Um, lack of self-reflection and accountability. I think that both personally, professionally, and kind of tying a little bit back to we all have value. I think we all impact each other and impact the world in different ways. And so when there's a challenge in front of us or a problem, or something's gone wrong, it's very easy, especially in today's society, to point the finger and say it's their fault, it's not my fault, and just to immediately go into that defensive blame game. And I think instead, my approach to problems, and I think, when other people can't do it, it's very frustrating for me, is to look in the mirror and say, okay, I'm not saying we have to accept the blame, but just saying, how might I have done something different? Maybe it was communication, maybe it was, understanding how my words were impacting someone else, but, what could I have done differently to get a different result out of this situation? Um, and again, it's not about taking the blame, because I'm not saying that that's the solution. I'm just saying that there is an opportunity to learn in every situation how we might have contributed in some way or might have done something different to generate a better, more positive outcome.
But again, that takes an incredible level of emotional intelligence. So where did this emotional intelligence development within you, where did it stem from? Where did it arise? Who taught you that? Because many people didn't learn that, and many people didn't learn that till later in life, if they ever learned it at all.
Um, I mean, I think again, it just comes from when I was small and the being, child rearing in my family. I had a great relationship with my grandparents. I don't know specifically if it's something, they said or the way that it's just the environment that I was brought up in. My grandfather was from the wrong side of the tracks, and my grandmother was from the right side of the tracks, I guess is the opposite. And they came together and their families embraced one another. My grandfather had some mobility challenges after having been in a car accident when he was 21. And so there was some stuff around that. My mom started as a file clerk at a bank and worked her way up to being a president at the bank. And I was just kind of part of those journeys for both of them. And I think all of that influence just influenced me from an
Yeah.
early age.
From example, right? From example with your grandparents and your parents. It's interesting as I'm weaving some of what you have said, Brooke, in terms of if we understand we have value and each person has value, then it seems logical that the ripple effect of me being in something is going to affect others and vice versa, right? That ecosystem that you were talking about. So if I understand I have value, then I understand that I'm having an impact, one positively or negatively. So the beauty of self-reflection is the ripple effect that I created, was it what I wanted? Is it what's best for everyone within this ecosystem? Or if it wasn't, what within me has an opportunity to learn right now? So seems to me they go together, this idea of I have value, everyone has value, which allows me to see that I have an effect. And if I'm not having the effect that is what I desire, then maybe I need to look at me, right? Is it, does that make sense the way I'm putting that?
It does, absolutely. I think I talk a lot with a friend of mine recently actually about the impact and intent. You have an intention to influence a situation in a certain way, and sometimes the impact doesn't turn out the way that you expected it to. And so that self-reflection and understanding that how could have this gone differently and affected those ripples, as you put it. Again, not saying you got to take the responsibility, but there is, as we all bring value to the table, our value also has an impact to everyone else that's sitting at that table in some way. So absolutely, it's all interconnected.
This is an amazing conversation. It's making me think about this book that I've been reading lately that says, "What will they say about you when you're gone?" I think that's the exact title. And it talks about how, like, one action, like to make an action every day, and it will have an impact on somebody, and that impact on that person will have a ripple effect, and that it can ripple down generations. What do you think of that?
I I want to read the book. It sounds great. I will actually make a note of it. I think that's exactly what we're talking about here is and it's probably put much more eloquently by the author of the book, so I'd love to read it.
Ah, what an important point. There's an attorney that does these educational things on communication on TikTok and Facebook Reels and all of those things. And one of the things he says is in communication is to ask yourself, what does this person want us to value about them? What is it? And it's funny because I've been playing with that a little bit, even in my day-to-day conversation. How does this person want to be valued? And I'm finding it is different for each person. And that when I acknowledge that, all of a sudden there's like a light that goes on. I have a granddaughter who's 12, and she's witty and she's humorous and she's funny and all of those kinds of things. But no one has ever brought up how she lightens a mood and she pulls us together with her antics, right? And the pleasure that we get from that. And I just, after listening to Jefferson Fisher on this, I actually, in public, when we're all together, pointed out, Ebony, you completely changed the energy in this room through that antic. You made us all happier and smiley. And you could just see how she changed, how she was like, finally, somebody sees my worth, right? That it's not just that I'm goofy, but I actually have value by lightening a mood in here. So I didn't mean to go off track there, but that's what you're reminding me of, Brooke, is you see the value in others and you also see the value in yourself. Tell us about at work. You got a lot of people working for you and with you. How do you bring out the best in them as a leader?
Well, I think it starts with just having an amazing team and surrounding myself with other leaders who are incredibly diverse, who have different strengths and weaknesses and bring different values to the business. Because I think everything starts at the top and it's not just me, it's the team in general and ensuring that the entire team works cohesively together and has that necessary balance. And then it's just understanding what motivates people in different ways.
Yeah.
I think that, some people respond and kind of to your point is one person may need public recognition and they they're very competitive and so they like that feeling of competition in order to hit a goal, whereas other people are more maybe introverted and they want to be rewarded but probably on a more private level and recognized for the value that they bring but on a not so public forum. And so I think recognizing that people are different and people's incentives are different. And so it's the value they bring, it's what motivates them that's different. And as a leader, it's up to us to say, hey, who are you? And how do you like to be managed? And how can I help you to be successful within our organization? And whether that means you're here as a stepping stone to somewhere else, which is completely fine, whether you're here because you want to climb the ladder and you want to own your own franchise one day, and that's amazing and great. I want to help you get there. Or maybe you're for lack of a better way to put it, a 9 to 5er. You just want to be able to come to work, do a good job, get the job done, go home with no weight on your shoulders, and be with your family in the evenings and do, I don't know, a hike and play with your puppies. I don't know what it is, but like tell me about you, what motivates you and how I can bring out the best in you for the company while you're here and how I can help you be a better person moving forward and set you up for future success.
What I love about that is your lack of judgmentalism, right? You're non-judgmental about each person, like, hey, if this is the way you work, or if you don't want to be acknowledged in public, or if you want to be a 9 to 5er, you're saying that's okay. Let's acknowledge you the way you are. I'm not trying to change you.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah, I think as entrepreneurs and business owners, oftentimes we look for the people who want to climb the corporate ladder, who want to, go from frontline teams to management to maybe future ownership. And we view that as professional drive, and they're going to be better because they've got something to prove. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I think that I have some amazing people on the team who are very happy with where they are on the team. And knowing that every day at 5 o'clock when they go home or they, turn off their computer if they're working from home, that they're done with their day and they don't have the stress and the burden and they're just very happy with making their living and contributing in their way every single day. And they have value too. They help my business. Without them, we wouldn't be where we are. So absolutely.
So true. They're kind of the backbone of society, really. Those steady, dependable, consistent individuals that are loyal and they're going to do a great job every day. They're going to provide, they're going to protect their families. That's the backbone of society, right? We need these people. They have strong value, independently and collectively. All
When
right.
if we were all the same and we were all, fighting up the same ladder, things get pretty complicated. So
Yeah,
it's
I'd
kind
like
of
to
nice that
do
you have a little bit of everything mixed in there. Absolutely.
It's so true. Okay, tell us a story
That's
of the craziest move or the most interesting client you had that you had to move. Um, Tell us one that you go, oh man, that was fun, or oh my gosh, I don't want another one of those. Or tell us a story about a client that made an impression on you.
That is a tough, so it's not really, there are certain customers that leave impression, and that's the piece of what you just asked me that really stood out. I mean, I can think back in the 20 plus years I've been within the 2 Men and a Truck system, and there are specific names that I remember just because they were incredibly pleasant to work with. And very accommodating and friendly and accepting of the frontline teams and their homes. And those are the ones that stand out for me more. Of course, I do have like the ones that were the complete opposite, which there are different customers all over the planet. So, um, but I think if you were to ask some of my frontline teams what their weirdest and most crazy things, I mean, it's the full-size taxidermy bear that somebody has in their
Yeah,
living room, things like that that are just, you see how people live. You're
right.
in their homes. Moving is a very personal service where you're literally inviting a complete stranger into your home to move absolutely everything that you've ever worked so hard for in your life. And they're putting it in a truck and you're waving goodbye. And so um, those frontline teams definitely get some perspective into people's lives. And we appreciate the confidence that our customers entrust on us to carry every personal and private possession that they have and get it to the other end safely for them. And so, yeah, I love that we make impactful services on people's lives as they're moving forward.
I think we're going to have to ask that question again next year about the junk truck.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yes, that's a good point.
That's going to be the story.
absolutely. Absolutely. I'll be on the lookout for all the weird things people are junking.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, but I love the idea of wrapping up a full-size bear, taxidermied bear, and moving it across country. I think that's just so cool.
Well,
Wow.
and then wondering if there's a story behind that bear. Like, why
Yeah,
that bear? Did something crazy happen?
yeah, yeah. What's the story? I love it. So tell us about the future. Where do you see your life 5 years, 10 years from now? You do a lot of volunteer work. Will you be more active in your volunteerism? Are you going to be the mayor of Durham? What is the plan?
I hope I'm not the mayor of Durham. That's a lot of responsibility, and I don't know if I can navigate the political climate very well. But I just want to continue to grow my businesses. When opportunities and doors open in front of me, continue to go through them. I think that's what life is about. It keeps things interesting. Definitely continuing to volunteer. That's just something that I'm passionate about and feel like it's fun. I mean, right now I'm painting pet portraits for a fundraiser. So, that's a little tapping into my creative side of things that's fun for me. So I don't know, just continue to go where life takes me.
Wow.
Hey, love it. Well, I got to tell you, Brooke, you made me think a lot in this conversation, especially around this idea of valuing others. I'm going to be much more cognizant of that and that self-reflective component within relationships. Um, what did I bring? What did I not bring? What ripple effect did I create? So I hope others also saw some of these tidbits that you gave us that if we embrace, we can really, really make a difference in our lives. I also love your story about how your husband and you decided we're going to do both and we're going to do both well. So it says a lot about your character and the commitment to one another. So I think it's a beautiful story. So thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been fun.
Well, and Tracy, I always put it over to you because you're so good at the wrap ups.
Rebecca, I think you said so much. When I look at Brooke and when I listen to you, I just get such a warm and fuzzy. I really do. You know, when we were talking earlier, all of a sudden Jules' song came to mind where she says, "These hands are small, I know, but they're not yours, they are my own." And then, like later in the chorus, it says, "Only kindness matters." Like, I feel like like you're the embodiment of that song.
Yeah.
I really, I think it's just so beautiful, you know, looking for value in others and all the world's a stage and treating everyone from top to bottom, you know, the same because you never know who you're talking to, like you mentioned in our pre-show conversation. I just really get a warm and fuzzy from you. And I just want to thank you for really setting an example for, you know, not only for us, but our listeners, for your employees, for future generations. Again, I think you're going to have a huge tidal wave ripple effect with everything you're doing. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Those are very kind words.
I like the tidal wave, Tracy. That will create some massive ripple effects. I agree 100%. Well said, Tracy. And thanks again, Brooke, for joining us. And thank you to those listening in today. I'll make sure to comment, like, and share Brooke Wilson's interview today. And of course, we'll see you next week on another episode of the Franchise Woman Podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged.